We're out on the streets again. This is Crime Watch. Hello and welcome to Crime Watch. I'm Jane Cameron with Sergeant Mike Levchick of the Buena Park Police Department. You know, we've talked about people being aware in their neighborhoods and reporting to the police department things that just seem a little unusual. And we have a perfect example. Besides it being a car, tell me what we're looking at here.
Well, what happened was that a neighbor had called and said that they saw a car that doesn't really belong in their neighborhood. It had been parked here for several days. It looks like it's abandoned. There's no license plates on the cars. The inside is partially kind of torn up and what have you, and it's kind of parked at a weird angle. So, you know, and what happens is that the neighbors that live in this area, they go, you know, that doesn't belong here. So let's go ahead and notify the police department. So we come out and take a peek at it.
And it's exactly what they say it is.
My first thought that it was going to be a stolen car just because of the way it looks. It has, like I said, the license plates are taken off of it. The inside is partially stripped out. The VIN numbers are, you can hardly see them where you normally look for a VIN number on the dashboard, so I had to go find some other places where VIN numbers are usually kept at. But it did come back to registered in Buena Park, but unfortunately we can't find out whose address it is because it comes back to a post office box, so we don't really know exactly where the person lives.
So now what? Do you tow it?
Well, no, I'm not going to tow it right now. It is currently registered, believe it or not. Just because it doesn't have license plates on it doesn't necessarily mean that it's an unregistered vehicle. So for whatever reason, the license plates are not on it, but I can't tow it just for that. If it were expired over 6 months, by law, I could tow it away. So that would be a pretty good solution for this particular situation. But right now, as it stands, it is kind of cockeyed parked there a little bit, but I can put a parking ticket on it or something like that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to mark the tires, and then I'm going to put a notice on the windshield that says, hey, you've got 72 hours to move this car. That is a law that is allowed, or it gives us the authority to tow a car if it has been unmoved over 72 hours. And that way, if there's any abandoned cars, a lot of times that happens where people just, you know, they push their car out and they just don't want it anymore. They don't want to deal with it anymore. That's the way that we're able to legally clear up the street like that of abandoned vehicles.
So even though the neighbors have seen this car for 3 days, the 3 days starts right now.
Right. As soon as I mark the things, mark the tires a little bit and put the little tag on it, then the 72 hours begins. It doesn't begin, it could be sitting here for a week. And a lot of people will do that too. They'll call up and say, oh my gosh, that car's been there for a week. Well, we may not have known about it, but unfortunately our clock starts when we tag the car.
So it's probably better maybe to call sooner than a week or sooner than 3 days. If you really think the car is unusual, maybe call the day you see it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not illegal to park in a neighborhood that is not yours, if you know what I mean. I mean, we're right near Knott's Berry Farm, so a lot of times people, to avoid the parking fees and all that stuff, they'll park out elsewhere out in the neighborhoods. But yeah, when you see a car sitting in the same spot for several days, yeah, it's probably time to call. Now, if there were suspicious characters hanging around it and doing whatever they're doing, yeah, then you need to call immediately. You don't want to wait a couple of days for that.
So the clock starts now.
Clock, as soon as I mark the tires and leave the slip on the windshield, it starts then.
So, what is the difference between a traffic accident on the street and in a parking lot? And that's not a joke.
Well, you know, we're still concerned with people get hurt, but and that's our main concern, is that, you know, that nobody is hurt at any type of accident. The majority of the accidents that we have on private property are,
As we're here at the Buena Park Mall, and there's one right over there.
one right over here. Our officers are over there assisting those people right now. And but again, like I said, usually it's slow speed stuff. Somebody backs out into somebody, or you know, they'll misjudge the turning of the radius of the car and accidentally clip a bumper or something like that.
But it could be still pretty bad damage.
Well, sure it is, but at the same time, what we're talking about, like I said, is property damage. You know, whether or not it's, you know, $10 to fix or $10,000 to fix, really what you're talking about is property damage. So now here in this particular mall parking lot that we're at, or the parking lot that we're at, the person here, according to the call, may or may not have a driver's license. Now, on private property, we cannot, like for example, if we were to investigate a traffic collision and we were to determine that the cause of the accident was like unsafe backing or something like that, so somebody backing out of a stall, we really can't write a ticket for to that person for being at fault at an accident. However, we could do that like on the street, on a regular accident on the streets. If somebody, you know, runs a red light and we have enough evidence to be able to support that particular claim or that charge, we can write the person a ticket. On a private property situation like this, we generally do not do that. We let the insurance companies take care of business. Now, on this particular case here, like I said, the officers are investigating it. One of the drivers may not have a driver's license. We can enforce that. We can write the person a ticket for not having a driver's license. So, and again, I don't know the whole circumstances of it, but in a nutshell, private property accidents generally we'll give them documentation that we came out to assist them. However, we're not going to take a report on it because it's property damage only and it's occurred on private property. Because to wrap that part up is that a police report for a traffic collision really only supports any type of prosecution that might follow after you take the reports and stuff like that. So it really, I mean, we'll take a report of what people say, to us. Oh, I was going this way and I was going that way. And a lot of times, if you don't have independent witnesses that are very reliable, it's he said, she said. So it's hard for us to determine fault and stuff like that. But generally speaking, on private property, it's going to be, we'll give you documentation and let you guys' insurance company take care of business.
Okay, so different subject, same area. Mm-hmm. We have this activity going on, and what you didn't see when you were looking towards my way is that people are coming out from the mall and their cars are parked right in that area. So what do you do when you see, I mean, no one's being thrown on the ground, there's no fighting, yelling, or whatever, no one's crying. Right. What do you do when you're a shopper and you've got this event around your car?
Well, like for example, I'm looking at, I got this car blocked in here. if somebody comes up and started loading it, of course I'm going to move. You know, I mean,
But you don't want to interrupt, the whatever's going on.
you kind of hit it on the head. If you see that it's not some active, dynamic situation where there's people being chased all over the place, it's probably not a good idea to go up to the officer and say, "Officer, can you move your car, please? I gotta go." You know, all that kind of stuff. But in a situation like this, where it's not a problem to ask us to move, and 9 times out of 10 we'll move our car.
Well, and it's true because I did see an officer back up so somebody could pull out.
Right.
So
Exactly. So we're not.
you know what? We've got somebody.
I'm blocking the sergeant in here, so I'm going to go ahead and start moving now.
With the hot weather coming around, there's an important person in your family that you need to make sure you're watching out for them, and that's your dog or your cat or one of those lovely animals in your family.
Absolutely. Any pet that you have, it is a member of your family. And you wouldn't do things to your members of your family that you wouldn't do to your dog, I would hope. But I'll tell you this much, especially with the hot weather that's coming out outside right now, it's so very, very, very important to make sure that you take care of your pets in the heat and when they're out and about, and if you're driving around in the car with them.
We're with Fanny and Kim, and we're at the PetSmart. Fanny, with this weather coming around, and it's so hot even for humans, what can we do to make sure that our dogs stay well hydrated?
So definitely you want to make sure that we always have our pets well hydrated. You always have water available for them. Another good thing that you could do is start mixing some wet canned food with their kibble, because wet food does carry a lot of water, so keep them hydrated.
So often I see people walking their dogs out, and I wouldn't walk barefoot. I mean, we're by a sign where it talks about how hot the asphalt is, which is incredible. And for dogs, their pads, they must get blisters.
So yes, definitely. You want to be aware of there's a lot of pet parents that like to take their pets out hiking or even walking out since the concrete's been very hot. We do sell booties, and they're going to be just like regular little paws that for their paws, and that prevents them from getting any burns. And also we do have like a paw cream that kind of soothes their paws if you guys walk them.
I would think even the canines that the officers have, they have to do special precautions.
Oh yeah, they have. They have the little special booties. They might be a little more tactically sound, I don't know, a little more durable perhaps, but they
in black.
And in black, sure, absolutely. But no, in fact, I know when we talked to Officer Boynton but with his dog, I remember him having booties for example, if they have to go into a building with a broken glass all over the place. So he could probably use those ones too if he knew that he was going to be on a situation where it's hot and it's hot asphalt and stuff like that. So he could probably use those ones as well.
Kim, pet owners really love their dogs, don't they?
I love my dog, that's for sure.
So I can only imagine people need to do whatever they can just to make sure that they're safe and they can go home and just be loved by the family.
Right, exactly. And there are laws in the books that say that if you leave an animal or any type of animal, dog, cat, whatever it is, in a car, you could be charged with cruelty to animals. It all depends on the situation and what have you. And a lot of people, obviously, they say, well, I left a crack on the window and I parked under a tree. People still got to realize that even under those types of circumstances, the temperature inside of a car can raise up to, well over 100 and some odd degrees, to the point where it's lethal to a pet. So it doesn't matter what type of precautions that they take, if they roll down the window or if they leave, a bowl of water inside the car, or if I'm just going in just for a minute. You really we got to really stop and think about how drastic it could be for those poor animals.
We don't make it up here to the northern area of Buena Park very often. It's pretty quiet. What happened tonight?
Well, there was a report of a beer run out at one of our local stores up here, and a couple of kids went in and grabbed some beer off the shelf. And so they were last seen running towards the big regional park that's right up here. So we thought we'd come up here and take a look, maybe see if we can find these kids.
Now, stealing beer from a store, is that considered a misdemeanor?
Well, in this particular case, yes. It's at this point, it's based on what's in the call log here. It sounds like a couple of kids went in and grabbed a couple of boxes or 12 packs of beer and ran out the store. They didn't use any weapons. They didn't use any force. They didn't use any threats or anything like that at all. They just went in and grabbed the beer. Now that is technically a misdemeanor. What bumps things up a little bit, though, is when they start to brandish weapons or use threats of fear or threats of violence or instill any type of fear into the clerks. That certainly ramps it up. And what happens with that is that situation is that then you have a robbery. So that bumps it up to a felony. Now that is obviously a heck of a lot more serious than just a simple beer run out.
What's the chance of finding these kids?
Well, I don't know. The call was delayed by several minutes because there was other calls that were pending, more urgent calls. Had this come out as a robbery, then by all means it would have been a higher priority call. But the call itself is about 10 minutes old. So they could be any place.
They're gone and the beer is drunk.
Yeah, that could possibly be. But we're gonna definitely give it the college effort here and try to see if we can't find somebody. And who knows? Maybe they'll be sitting right around the corner here and we'll be able to find them. They'll just sit right out. Sometimes they'll just sit right out here at some of the places where the kids play in the dark, and they'll be drinking their beer. And believe it or not, sometimes we've rolled up on them like that. So. They may be that dumb enough to sit here and drink their beer, but so far it looks like they're in the wind.
Well, as we continue to look for these kids who stole beer, we're going to close the show. If you have any questions about tonight's show, you can call the Buena Park Police Department at 562-3901 or check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or in your neighborhood, because the Buena Park Police Department is out on the streets making sure that you and your neighbors are safe. With Sergeant Mike Lovchick, I'm Jane Cameron. Thanks for watching.
Be sure to like us on the official City of Buena Park Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. There you'll find a little of everything from information about our city services and upcoming events to discounts offered by our entertainment attractions such as Knott's Berry Farm, Medieval Times, and Pirates Dinner Adventure.